So here's a side note. A lot of this footage is old videos, and as I'm editing, putting everything together, I noticed that most of the cars I'm working on, I'm not using jack stands. And I know, guys, I know some of you guys are gonna leave the comment below, so it's why I'm doing this commentary. I know I should be safer. I'm even looking at these videos thinking, like, what the hell was I thinking? You know, I should be using jack stands. But yeah, I just want to say something before I get a million comments about it. Here I got a 2005 Dodge Durango. It's here for front brakes. And based off of that information alone, I bet some of you already know what's going on with this car. That's right, front brakes are grinding. Classic stuff over here. Nobody ever changes brake pads on time. Everyone just waits for it to get this bad, and that's it. That's normal around here. Anyway, I'm not going to bore you guys with the details, so let me just go ahead and knock this out. And there we go, guys. New rotor, new pads, new hardware kit. Make sure to clean up all the rust where I had to so the pads can move freely. Even the slide pin up here was seized in place, so I had to pull out the rubber boot out of the caliper and clean out that board, clean all the rust that was inside of there, re-grease everything, put it back together, and now both of the slide pins move freely. So this side's all set. I'm gonna go ahead and knock out the other side, and I guess we'll just take it out for a test drive, make sure everything's good. All right, so this thing has been working consistently, but like I showed you guys earlier, how this thing keeps wanting to fall off track. So you can see I got some zip ties here. Now the first zip tie was this one right here, to keep the two cables close together to make them not want to fall off the pulley, and that worked great. But after moving the door up and down, I found out that what happens is the zip tie ends up moving, and by the time you're done, it ends up all the way over here. And then we have the same exact problem going on where this is just too loose and the cable wants to come off of the pulley. So the second zip tie was to hold the first zip tie close to here so it doesn't move. I know it seems stupid, and you're probably wondering, well, it's just gonna chew right through the zip ties, and based off of what I've been testing, the zip tie is just gliding right over everything like butter. So sure, it might end up eating through eventually, but I'm pretty sure I could get a pretty good long time out of these. If they happen to break after a few months, just put new ones on. What does it matter? Let's go ahead and test this little jerry rig of mine. I'm gonna go ahead and push the door. I'm just trying to reach it with a broom. So, all right, you can see the zip tie stood right there with the pulley the entire time. Let's go ahead and open it. There we go, guys. And look at that. The pulley, I mean the cable is not wanting to come off of the pulley. The zip tie is holding everything together. You know what? It ain't stupid if it works. So I got this Grand Prix here for brakes all the way around, so pads and rotors all the way around. This thing has been waiting to get brakes from the owners for a few weeks now, okay? And I went on Rock Auto's website, gave them a quote. It was like $220 for all the parts, right? All the pads, all the rotors. So the lady thought it was too much, and she said, no, I could get it on AutoZone's website for less. So that doesn't sound right to me, because I know how these things go, but all right, whatever. So she ordered everything through AutoZone's website, and everything came in the box. She didn't even open it. I'm the one who opened it right now. But when she pulled the box out of her trunk, I already knew all the parts were not in the box, because with 4 rotors in a box like this, that box should be heavy as hell. She picked it up with no issues at all. So I knew all the rotors were not here. So we got rear pads, front pads. It's the cheap, you know, base stuff, okay? No hardware kit, nothing. And only 2 rear rotors, so no front rotors. And I told her what the car needs, because I looked the car over. I said, yeah, this thing needs rotors all around. Look at the outside, and not horrible, right? But look at the inside. You know, if you add up everything, if you got the proper parts in your cart, yeah, AutoZone's parts would cost more than getting it from Rock Auto. I'm not putting pads on this thing, at least not the front. I told her those rotors are no good. I can't put pads on that. And that's it. We're only gonna go ahead and do the rear brakes, which sucks because the front are damn near grinding. The inboard pad has no more friction material left on it. So unfortunately, she's gonna drive out of here with her brakes pretty much the same way. So, and this is all what happens when, you know, people think that my prices are too high. It's not even my prices. These are Rock Auto's prices. When I quote someone for parts, it's decent quality parts. Even if you want the cheapest rotors, okay, we'll get affordable rotors. It's no different from the crap that AutoZone sells you. But I don't put pads like this on cars. I buy good quality pads. You know, one thing is put good pads on your car. So that price I quoted her for was good quality pads with a hardware kit and then standard rotors. She would have been better off. We would have had all the parts here and the whole car would get done today. She would drive away happy, but no, instead she's only getting half the car done. She's gonna have to pay more money now because now she got to buy the rest of the parts from AutoZone. It is what it is. This is what happens when people think that I'm trying to screw them over with prices when they don't understand. I'm actually trying to save them money, but it is what it is, right? What are you gonna do? It's like the longer I keep working on this car, I'm just getting more and more frustrated because I just realized that since we got the cheap pads from AutoZone, we don't have a hardware kit. And these things are like, you know, stuck in place, and sure, I could reuse them. I have no choice to. But it's just more frustration because you got to deal with crap like this. All because, yeah, I'm not even going to get into it. It's just frustration. So then on top of that, it's time to clean off the rear rotors, right? So we got one box open. I was like, let me check the other box. Guess what? We have one front rotor. Oh my goodness. So this white lady was saying, no, I'm pretty sure I had the rear and the front rotors in my cart when I checked out. Yeah, you have one of each. So this means I can't even finish the rear brakes. I can't do any. I have to do this side now because I got started on it, you know. So it's gonna get the new pads and the new rotor right here. But nothing else could get done unless I decide to do like the one wheel, choose one of the front wheels to put the pads and the rotors on up front. But that's about it. All right, so I just talked to my wife about the situation, and sometimes when you're upset or frustrated, sometimes you just got to talk to someone else to get a different perspective on things, because sometimes you're not thinking straight whenever you're frustrated, okay? So she told me, don't even bother putting the new parts on this thing. Just slap all the original parts on it and just park it on the street. Tell them come get their car. Unless they have all the correct parts and all of the parts, don't touch it. And she's right. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go ahead and just put the original parts back on it. Come get your car. You know what's funny is I grabbed the part numbers from those parts that she ordered over there, and I pretty much added to auto, because I went on AutoZone's website and I added everything else that we need. So I added another rotor for the front, another rotor for the back, and the rear hardware kit and the front hardware kit, because none of that stuff is included. And at the end of the day, she's, what was it, like $260, and I think that's even before taxes. So this gets closer to like $300 from AutoZone, which makes sense. That's where I expect the prices to be. So anyways, I'm done ranting about this car. This whole car has been nothing but a waste of time. We are back with this Pontiac. This time we got all the parts in from Rock Auto. We got new rotors, new pads, hardware kit. So let's go ahead and knock this out. So I'm just about done with the brakes on this Pontiac. I'm wrapping up the rear right side, and yeah, I'm gonna take it out for a test drive. Now here goes all the rotors off of this car. Get a good look at them. And this is a car that the owner wanted me to put pads on it. Like, sorry, it's not gonna happen if you don't get it fixed right where I'm not doing it. So, not to mention all of the pads pretty much like this. Believe it or not, there are people out there that will keep pad slapping this car. All right, so the brake pedal feels good, the brakes are nice and quiet, and the car stops really good compared to how it came in. So that's just about it for this one. What a massive difference it makes having all your pads and rotors changed. I've got this top hole here for front brake pads. The owner said the pads are getting low and he doesn't want it to destroy his new rotors that he just put on last time I did the brakes. So, you know, he picked up some pads from O'Reilly's, and once I got the caliper out the way, look at those pads. They look almost brand spanking new. Same thing on the front left side. I already checked the front left side, same exact thing. So I called him before I went any further. I'm like, hey man, these pads are not low like you said. They look almost brand new. I mean, if you compare them to the thickness of a new pad, it's hard to tell the difference. And he's like, really, they're not low? Oh yeah, they honestly, they don't need to be replaced. So he's like, yeah, just leave those parts and I'll return the other ones back to O'Reilly's. So just save some money here. But sometimes it's just how it goes, guys. You know, it's not always about making a quick buck. I could have easily just slapped these pads on here without ever calling the owner and say, hey, your car's ready, come pick it up and pay me, you know. But it's not about that. You know, I'd rather see the customer happy and he saves money also, knowing that these things don't need to get done. more importantly, you got a customer that's going to return in the future because you didn't screw him over. So I'm gonna go ahead and put this stuff back together and he'll be on his way. We've got this Ford Fuson here, and it's here because it needs tie rods. Basically, both of the front wheels are wobbling back and forth. You could probably hear that, and I think the front left side is even worse. I did check it out a few days ago. I'm sure the outer tie rods could use replacing, but it's mainly the inner tie rods causing all this. So because of that, all 4 of them are getting replaced. So we're gonna go ahead and knock that out. The owner has been complaining about like I don't know what to call it, like just rattling, clunky noise coming from up front, and it's basically all of this movement going on every time you go over bumps. So let's go ahead and knock it out. And here goes that inner tie rod. Hopefully you guys can see that. So yep, flaccid. All right, so I'm pretty much done on the front right side. Everything is reconnected and everything's nice and snug. There is no more play in these outer tie rods. Everything's nice and tight how it should be. Now if you're wondering why I have these zip ties here, well, this one right here is for the bellow, or they're both for the bellow, but this one is because the clamp that came off of it just kind of disintegrated. That's Ford quality right there. So we're gonna have to replace it with a zip tie because I don't have a replacement clamp for that at the moment. All right, so I'm not done with the Ford, but I am done with the front right side. I'm gonna go ahead and clean up my mess of tools and we'll get started on the front left side. Now what I did was I adjusted the tie rod for the side I just did by using my measuring tape method to get the 2 wheels parallel to each other. So basically we use this wheel on this side as a point of reference with the measuring tape on the front and the back of the tire to measure to the wheel that has not been adjusted yet. And once we get the distance correct front to back in comparison to the front left tire, then I went ahead and locked it in place. That's where that one is staying at. So now when I go ahead and do this one, change the tie rods, put everything back together, we're only going to adjust this side. And again, we're going to measure from this tire over to that one on the front and the back of the tire. And once we get all the measurements pretty much squared up, then we know that the 2 front wheels are parallel to each other, even though we still may have the steering wheel off a little bit. And the reason why I do this is because owner just doesn't have money to go out for a wheel alignment like a lot of my customers do. So I'm going the extra mile and doing what I can to make sure that these tires don't get destroyed and that the car is honestly safer to drive than just leaving the wheels all cattywampus, you know what I mean, going off in any direction. The car is not going to want to accelerate, stop, or handle correctly. So by doing this, the car is at least going to drive safely until he could get the money together and take it in for a wheel alignment. And here goes that inner tie rod on the front left side. All right, so I'm just about done with this Ford. I just finished doing my DIY wheel alignment. So I've been driving the Ford around for a few minutes now, and all that clunky noise we had up front from the loose tie rods, all of that is gone. Of course the steering wheel is off a little bit, nothing major. It's not like it's completely 180 degree out, but this is basically how I'm holding it to go straight. So definitely needs a wheel alignment, like I always tell anyone who ever gets tie rods replaced. Now this thing sounds like it has a bad wheel bearing, but I doubt it's gonna get fixed. Probably just keep riding it until it gets so bad that the car is not even drivable. That's when things get fixed, apparently, around here. But that's it. Tie rods are all done. So I've got this Hyundai Tucson here. It's a 2009, I believe. One of the complaints customers having is she's saying when it's cold outside, obviously it's not cold out right now, but winter is coming. She doesn't get that much heat on the driver's side vents, but plenty of heat out the passenger side. And what's funny is I feel plenty of heat coming out the driver's side, but very little out the passenger side. So it's actually reversed of what she's telling me, which I have to get in contact with her and see what's going on, because this doesn't make sense. You can see we are at about 100 degrees, okay? Hopefully you can see my little red laser over there. 100 degree. Come to this one. 106, 104, around the same thing, right? And then let's go over to the driver's side. 145, 48, so basically like 150. So there is a 50-degree difference between the two sides, and that's significant. This car only has one blender actuator for the heat. It's not a dual climate control. So basically when you put it on hot and cold, there isn't two actuators turning both sides. It only has one. And trust me, I looked already. So the one is on the driver's side and it has a shaft. And on this side where you could tell where a blender actuator is supposed to mount, it's just not mounted because they got one shaft and it's just connected to the one on this side. So that's why this car only needs one temperature control. So we know the blender actuator is working. Why? Because this side changes. All right, so I got the AC on. It's been running for about 2 minutes now, and honestly, just by feeling it with my hand, it feels like the AC is pretty much the same out of all vents. So over here on the driver's side, we are an average of about 50. Come to right here. So we're just gonna estimate somewhere around 50, right? So about the same. Then we come over here, and again, this one seems a little bit higher, which is kind of what I would expect because it's further away from all the center stuff. But look, at some points we get 50 right there, see? So anyway, across the board, in general, it feels like it's blowing nice, even cold air out of all vents. All right, so scratch that. I guess it was just some sort of miscommunication. The complaint is exactly what I'm seeing here. There's hot blowing out the driver's side and not so much out the passenger side, so everything's making sense now. But yeah, I think I want to start checking the heater core to see if there's some sort of restriction or something going on there, because I don't think it's a blend door issue. So I took off the lower shield and I drained out some of the coolant. You can see I did not drain a lot out of it. Maybe, I don't know, that's probably like a quart and a half, I don't know. Anyway, I got the hoses off going to the heater core, and not a single drip of coolant came out these things. And of course it's because I drained it, but still I would have expected to see something, even a little dribble or something, but no, it's like no mess at all. Anyway, look at the garbage that we have inside of the heater core. See that? So tell me there's not going to be some sort of restriction inside of there. Yeah, that's not a good sign when you see crap like that inside of the core. You know, around it on the outside, that's one thing. Like say it was dripping at one point, whatever. But when you see the inside looking that nasty, that's not a good sign. So let me see what I could rig up here to try to backflow this thing, or try to get some water going through the system, see what we can do. So I went to grab our garden hose, which by the way I keep on our tree right there. So that's where the garden hose stays all year. And I go to grab it to use it right now, and yep, freaking tree rats. That's funny. So that's useless now. Well, in case you haven't figured out yet, I'm not really set up here to do a coolant flush on a heater core. I almost never do jobs like this. All right guys, so I came up with a very ghetto solution. As you can see, I got hose on top of hose on top of hose. I wanted to use my large, like, no spill funnel so I could put a lot of water in here, but it wouldn't fit inside of this hose right here, so I had to use this smaller one. Basically what I want to do is just kind of pour some water into the top port of the heater core and see how much comes out the bottom. All right, so I'm just gonna go ahead and start pouring the water in the funnel right here. We'll keep an eye on that lower port, see how much water comes out. So I'm already pouring in right now. It doesn't want to go down, or if it is going down, it's going down very slowly. And look at the amount of water that's coming out of there. That's nothing. Look at this. All right, so I got the compressed air, and there's still water inside of that heater core, and I'm just gonna put some compressed air in here. Nothing crazy, you don't want to put too much pressure in it, but we should get a decent amount of water coming out that lower port. Jesus Louise. Okay, I just got a face full of nasty coolant and water. Put a little bit more water in. It's a good thing I'm wearing my glasses. Good. Also, keep your mouth closed. What I want to do is take the hose off of that upper line for the heater core and put it on the lower line, and basically try to push the fluid in the opposite direction. I blew out both ports with the compressed air, try to get as much of the water out as I can. And what I'm going to do is simply go see if I have some CLR, because if you look at all that crap that's built up on there, those are just deposits from like coolant and water and things like that. So I'm hoping that if we put the CLR into the heater core, maybe it'll start to break down some of that crap. All right, so I do have some, not a sponsor. And what's funny is I grabbed this and I was like, oh, they must have changed the name of it to CLK. And I'm looking at it for like a good like 10 seconds, and I'm like, you know what, I'm dumb. It's just a sticker over the R, and it's covering part of the R, making it look like a K. Let's go ahead and put the funnel back on it, and I'm gonna feed the CLR into the lower port, I suppose. Yeah, that way we could get more of it to build up inside of that heater core. And we're just gonna let it sit. We're gonna fill it up as much as we can until it starts coming out that top port, and then just, I don't know, maybe let it sit for like a half hour or so. So we are just at that point where I pour it into the funnel, it starts to come out that top port right there. Hopefully you guys can see it dripping. All right, so we don't need to add any more CLR, and I'm just gonna go ahead and let this sit. Now, ideally, if I had another hose that would fit that top one, I would like bring the hose up just as high so I could basically fill the entire heater core. But I don't have any more hoses, guys. This is all I have. I'm all out of hose. All right, so the CLR sat in there for about 30 minutes, and I just went ahead, flushed it out, and I'm just continuously flushing it out with water, make sure we get all of it out of the system, and also blowing out whatever's in there with compressor, and just keep doing it over and over. We're gonna go ahead and fill up the system with brand new coolant, and we'll see if it made a difference inside the cabin with the heat. All right, guys, so I got everything buttoned up, filled up the system with brand new coolant. As you can see out there, I got my no spill funnel. Now, I've been having the engine running for about 30 minutes trying to get all the air out the system. So let's go ahead and remove the no spill funnel. We'll put the cap back on the radiator, and let's come inside and look at the results. So I took off the no spill funnel. We got the radiator cap installed. You can see we're just at about 33 minutes of runtime. The engine coolant temperature is reading 198. And let's look at this gauge. That's reading about 140. So that's already 40 degrees over what it was initially. And I can tell you right now, just sitting in the car, it is noticeably hotter in here. And of course, this one on the edge is going to be a little bit cooler because it's further away from the heater core. But let's go ahead and check it the way we checked it from the very beginning. So remember correctly, this one was reading up at about 100. See, it's about 38, 39. So let's just say there's a 40 increase right there, and about a 40 increase right here. Definitely hotter inside this car. And on the driver's side, it's just extremely hot. Look at that. Before it was like 150. Now we're at about 175 on the driver's side. See that? See where the laser's at? 180. Okay, so putting your hand right here immediately starts to burn your fingertips. On the passenger side, after about 4 seconds, starts to burn your fingertips, and pretty much the same thing over here, about 4 or 5 seconds, and that starts to get really hot. So yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and call that a fix. There is a noticeable difference. It's about 40 or 50 degrees hotter on the passenger side, and about 25 degrees hotter on the driver's side. And all we did was clean out the heater core and put new fresh coolant in the system. And to think that the owner has gone 5 winters without the heat working properly, that's absolutely crazy. But I'm glad it's finally fixed, and I'm sure she's gonna be able to tell the difference with this, because this thing is absolutely burning up right now. So come winter, the car should be ready, and she should get plenty of heat out of this thing. And I'm not trying to beat a dead horse here, but after test driving the vehicle, temperature on this one has exceeded 150. So guys, yeah, this car's done. It's like stupid hot inside of here.